All right. Claire,
Wow.
you said I need to go to the other spawn point, yeah?
Tell me.
Yeah,
What?
you need to go back to that, the
Central.
entrance, the central,
Yeah.
central.
And then, which ladder am I
So
going up?
have you gone, like, up this ladder and then down
Down where?
to the left? Like, not this way, go back, turn around.
This way?
Yeah, this way. Yeah, have you gone this
Oh!
way?
Shit, I didn't even see I could do that. All right. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yes,
There
so
we go.
that's a way you
All
can
right,
go.
thank you. Yep, I would have taken me a weirdly long time to get that. So, yeah,
Cool.
okay. Claire, I had a question for you.
What's up?
You know movies, you know TV shows, you know storytelling.
I've heard of them. I'm
Do you
scared.
think... Oh, fuck, it's a boss fight. All right, here we go.
It's just a Halcyon.
Do you think that it is easier... Oh, don't like that. Do you think it's easier to make a story meaningful if the story is depressing rather than happy?
Ah, meaningful to who?
Like, I guess the thing that I was gonna say is I've noticed a lot of stories that feel like deep and honest and meaningful and like they appeal to me tend to be fairly depressing or have sad endings or such. This is brutal. Whereas like there aren't a lot of like happy stories that I find really connect with me. And I'm
Like,
curious.
even if they suffer on the way to being happy?
Yes, because sometimes the endings don't feel earned, I guess. Like I feel I'm very kind of like it takes me out of it when it feels like we're doing something because it's supposed to be. It doesn't feel earned because it feels like we're just doing what we would want to have happen.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right, this is the way the story should go, so this is the way the story goes.
Exactly. This is the way that would make you happy if it went this way. You know, the good guys win, you know, the evil is defeated. But oftentimes it doesn't necessarily feel good. Do you think, is this a me thing, or do you think this is like a tendency of media that you also struggle with? What are your thoughts on this?
I think this is a pretty common feeling. In terms of how I feel specifically, I think it depends. But I mean, one of the things I was just thinking about as you were saying this was like the not to immediately talk about tabletops again, but like the Dimension 20 season where they did like a horror season, and Lou Wilson is just like, why do we suffer? And Brennan's just like, I think it was like research finds like people relate more to characters who suffer.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Which is like just such a like funny response. Also to like someone being so like everything is going wrong and just being like, yep, this is all I have to contribute. And it was a good moment.
Yeah, no, that's a really good moment. Yeah.
But
totally.
I also think it's kind of true. Like I've seen a lot of like when I'm thinking about stories and I'm thinking about like, I guess quote unquote kids shows, like animation. Like I really like watching animated shows. I really like voice acted shows. And I found that there was like a really heavy trend in, I guess, Western animation towards darker things. There's the like, not even just towards darker things. There's like the trope. I feel like this is a trope at this point of like animated show, Western animated show season 1. It's fun. We're all going on adventures. Season 2 of animated Western show, there's a war, and now we have to like fight someone or else all our friends will die.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh, the stakes just got raised by a weird amount, and the tonal difference is very different.
Uh-huh.
And I feel like, as you like write more and more of a story, you, the general you, I feel like, I guess, like in this case, Western storytellers, at least for animated popular TV shows, like tend to find conflict in suffering, where it's like the idea of story conflict doesn't necessarily need to be suffering. It can be found in many different ways, but I think the way that I guess story writing is taught in academic spaces I have seen and know of is that the idea is that you need conflict at the center of your story, and a story without conflict doesn't have a quote-unquote arc.
Well, and the part of the thing is, right, conflict is inherently suffering.
Right. This is the idea, which I don't know if I agree with.
Say more. Why do you think conflict is not inherently suffering?
I don't know if, like, well, suffering's such a specific type of conflict.
I don't think conflict is inherently trauma, or that conflict is inherently like suffering that is like should never happen. You know. But I do think conflict inherently has an aspect of suffering in it.
Okay. I don't know if I can like articulate whether like I feel like I like a story that is just I mean, but there is the whole thing of like slice of life anime as a whole genre, and like that's there's like a huge vast breadth of what that can be.
Yeah.
And a lot of it has suffering, and a lot of it like, you know, there's a lot of ways it can include suffering, but I do think sometimes you just want to read about someone else having an experience. It doesn't need to be a bad experience. Like, I think about, like, maybe this is like not a great example, but like think about a zine that just like is a nice little story. It's like a nice little event. I can actually think of like I have a friend who like had a zine that was like, these are the things I like.
But
that's the whole thing.
Yeah. But do you think about like the difference between like, yeah, zines are like a totally good example, right? Because there are a lot of things, right?
Yeah, I think the zine is a hard example to give because of the length it can be. I mean, I mean, maybe length isn't a valid like disqualifier, but I think there is something about the length of a media that changes the way conflict is approached. Because I don't watch a lot of movies. I do watch a lot of TV shows.
You and Ash
I feel like the format.
I'm way more of a movie person than a TV show person, and Ash and you are both TV show people.
Because I feel like the way you do narrative arc is different. Because with a TV show, you have to have an arc, and then you have to have an overarching arc. At least in like most modern structure of narrative, I feel like that obviously wasn't always true, and still doesn't necessarily need to be true, but is often.
This was the wrong time to get him. I thought he was out of all the points.
That's fair. At least like in the like formula I've seen, I guess most of like there is like, what is this episode about, episodic, and then like I feel like there's a really big 90s early 2000s thing. Think about like The Simpsons or whatever, just as like the first thing off the top of my head, where like episodes are fully disjoint from each other, or one even more controversial
versus,
example, South Park. Like
serialized
the whole
versus
joke
episodic
was,
is one of the differences.
Yeah.
Here.
And it's like the logic. There's like a different kind of logic in episodic, where like the whole joke of South Park was Kenny, a character, dies in every episode, but that doesn't make sense, right?
Totally.
It's not, but like that's the joke. Is it a good joke? Debatable. Is it a
Is South Park
really
good?
early
No.
2000s late? Is South Park good? No. Did it form a lot of weird media? Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah, so I think like there's a different kind of logic, and I feel like modern Western media demands the viewer approach with a type of logic that is like, I guess, quote, like kind of standardized. Maybe not standardized, but
Yeah, I think that's
less
accurate.
varied.
I also think that's true of pretty much every culture's storytelling has an inherent logic to it. I don't think that's true exclusively Western.
I think I'm saying Western because those are the media things that I watch, and so that's what I can speak on.
I do think like
It's
every
probably
culture.
true of
I
non-Western.
do think every culture has a slightly different logic. Like that's
Yeah.
culture.
Yeah.
Fuck.
But I think what I'm saying is like there's been sort of a unification of a singular logic to approach media with in Western media, whereas I don't think that was always true.
That's fair.
I realize you're fighting a boss.
No, that's.
so I should
I'm just
keep
having
saying thanks.
trouble fighting this boss. Oh, the Failure
Yeah.
Museum is great. Yeah. Have you heard about the Failure
Do
Museum
you
yet?
know
Claire?
about the Failure Museum? I feel like you'd enjoy it. I don't know about it, but it does sound like something I would enjoy.
It's a pop-up museum at, I think, what is it? Is it Guilford Mall? Where people basically have on display things of their failures, like things from a failed marriage or a failed project
Kingsway
that they worked on. No, Kingsgate. Sorry, it's Kingsgate Mall. Yes, sorry.
Kingsgate.
Important that it's Kingsgate Mall, which is kind of a failed mall.
Oh.
But yeah, no, this is the Failure Museum. It's, I think, still going. It's a pop-up, so it'll be gone soon.
Huh.
This is a thing.
Interesting. No, I'm not familiar with this, but yeah. I mean, I met someone whose like special interest was like niche children's TV shows from the late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
And there's so many. There's so many.
Yeah.
That's like. Well, there was one that was just like some person. Oh, what is it called? There's like a guinea pig. The main character's a guinea pig. Not an animated guinea pig. Just. Nope, not an animated guinea pig. Just fully. Someone took a camera out. Hey, there we go.
Oh,
Took
man.
a camera out to nature and just started filming nature and then did voiceovers for all the
I'm
animals.
obsessed.
That's
That
the whole
sounds
thing.
incredible.
It's very relaxing. It's just like very chill.
Yeah.
I don't, at least in the like little bit we watched, there wasn't any conflict. It was just like a little guinea
Ooh.
pig like sniffing things, and then the person like making up a story along the way, being like, oh, I guess I gotta get check on
fuck
Mr.
yes.
something.
Claire, they gave me a ground pound.
Hey. Let me see if I can find the name of this.
Okay, what is the X button on my controller? Because I'm playing with PS4 controller. So would the X button be triangle or square? Only one way to find out.
Sorry, the X button?
It was square. Yeah, it was square.
Okay.
So remind me that ground pound is square.
I think it's Tales of the Riverbank?
Cool.
Is that?
Sounds cool.
it?
Why don't you just use the Xbox controller? Hasn't really been an issue. I'm very used to the PS4 controller also. But
That's
it's
fair.
not previously been an issue. See.
I will say my Xbox controller is like the really expensive one, and it's fully like falling apart. So you know, debatable.
Our Xbox controller is cute. It's pink. I like it, but I just don't use it often. I think because it's still in your room, I think, Ash, because you were playing Red Dead Redemption
I bought this
2.
controller before you could customize them, and it
Oh,
makes me
damn.
sad that
That's sad.
if I want to customize it, I have to buy a new one.
It sucks. Long before it became a barrier against the cult's influence, this path led to the high peaks where treasures are hidden away. Now it stands forsaken, a forgotten passageway. One thing I was thinking about in regards to storytelling and the sense of like whether something feels more meaningful if it's sad, is I do think that one of the reasons that maybe a lot of like happy things, and this is, to be clear, I think partially just something wrong with me. A lot of happy things we're here. Is that I will see a happy thing and I'll be like, yeah, that doesn't really feel realistic. If you looked at the world right now, just in like this very like, to a degree, it's because like I'm like, oh, how happy could it be? How, you know, capitalism still exists or whatever the fuck.
So there's almost like a suspension of disbelief that like it's too far.
I think so, right? Because I'm like, because if I think about, it's the same reason why I think I also have like a similar problem with like very capital L liberal storytelling, in which things don't feel honest if they're from an ideological perspective that feels too naive, I guess. Like, and it's not in like, I hope, I like to believe it's not in a Simpsons way. I'm gonna see if I can I do anything with this person? This person's like dead, aren't they? Anyway.
Yeah.
And like, I don't mean in the Simpsons where we're like, actually you could just do this thing and then it would be, you'd be doomed or whatever, you'd be screwed. But in a way of like, I feel like one of the things that I identified as a central conflict here, or a central issue here, is not properly resolved. Like, Claire, you watched Arcane, yeah?
I did, yeah.
I felt very down on that ending in season 2 because I felt that they did not address properly the real stakes of the conflict between Piltover and Zahn.
You think that Kate just remaining a cop or whatever wasn't satisfying?
I don't care if Kate remains a cop. Like, she sucks, and I think that. But I thought that was in the text, and it turns out that was just my interpretation. But no, you're absolutely right.
Kate, unfortunately.
Like, sorry.
Well, I said everyone likes Kate, unfortunately. This is the thing that like killed it for me is like, Vi becomes a cop.
Yeah.
Vi grew up in the underworld, being harassed by cops.
No, 100%. And the thing for me is like, and this is what I mean when I say ideological, right? To me, I'm okay with that happening if it's a flaw. You know, like, to me, I always read the Kate Vi, like, the path they were on as being fundamentally destructive. And part of this is because I fundamentally misunderstood what Arcane was about. In my mind, it was about one thing, and the show's mind, it was about something else. For me, it was about the folly of, like, hubris, essentially. It is about the folly of...
That makes sense.
Of pride, of, like, every character is saying, you can change the world. I can change the world in the way that I want, and it will have no consequences. It's like something everyone is saying constantly. Or even if it has consequences, it's worth it, right? That is, like, the fundamental... Yeah. It's the danger of reaching for something. That, to me, is what Arcane was about. And it turns out it was about weird magic and how it's cool for you and your girlfriend to be cops. You know? Like, I should have healed. But to me...
I think this is, like, a thing that facing as a storyteller where, have you ever read Claymore?
I haven't, but I've heard of it.
And Hunter x Hunter, and I feel like there is a common thing.
I have friends who are big on Claymore, who like Claymore a lot.
Yes, understandable. I've not fully done it, but it's a fabulous, like, interesting read. People keep talking to us about Claymore. We gotta get into it. I have all the books digitally if you want them.
We gotta get
by books,
Claymore,
I mean comics. So I feel like a thing that, like, Claymore as an example, but a lot of stories do, is try and address systemic issues
Yeah.
via main characters, and as soon as you try and get a character to face a systemic issue, what you are doing is individualizing the problem, and
No, you're-
suddenly you have to turn the systemic issue into an individual, and then
Yeah.
have the main character beat that individual up or something, or like address that individual.
And it's
like
extremely hard to have that play out. I don't think it's impossible,
Yeah.
to be honest.
Often it doesn't. I don't think it's impossible. I think often it falls more flat than not. One of my favorite, like, Yuri, because I'm predictable and have opinions about Yuri, I'm in love with the villainess, literally is about revolution. It's about revolution and anti-government. It shows real things about, like, organizing and, like, distribution of food during hard times and famine. Because, you know, the government has fallen, and as much as the government sucked, it was a social support for many people, which now don't have social support and now need people to step up. And then in the second arc of it is they go to an empire, and you know, there's an evil emperor that things happen, and the solution is that they get a better emperor, and
One of the only...
and we don't really talk about the government system of the monarchy that fell. It kind of just becomes if I remember, it becomes like a democratic whatever model.
Yes.
This
is a
Japan
classic
has right
way
now.
to end something poorly. I mean, what's the ultimate version of this is the Game of Thrones ending, right? Don't worry, guys, now it's fine.
Now it's fine.
Right, and now it's fine of it all. It's just, that's part of the thing that doesn't work for me in the end of Arcane as well. It's like, you're telling me they put Zavika on the council? Have you watched the show?
As far as I understood, the show's not over, because I also found it really satisfying. I was unsatisfying, and I talked to someone about it, and they were like, "It's just setting up for the next."
No, they're doing spin-offs,
show
but they're not set in.
That's what I mean.
Piltover and
Sorry,
Zalm.
that's what I mean.
Like, they're set in other places.
Arcane is done, but. Like,
So this story is done, is my point. I think this story is done in their mind.
Yeah.
And I think they feel that they've addressed it, and I feel they haven't. I do think one of the things I often think about Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, and I think the ending of that one to me largely works because they keep at the core of it the fundamental issues of injustice and like stuff like that. There is, however, a couple of moments in there where you can feel the like, well, hang on, I don't know about that. I'm not gonna spoil the end of Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, but there's one aspect of the ending of for Roy Mustang that does
You're not
hit
gonna
for me.
do the thing, shoot the thing.
I can't. It's too up high.
Is it? Oh, the perspective on that. I believed you once you went over to it.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Yeah, like overall, and the reason I also bring up that one is because it is absolutely a one where it literalizes the issues at play into one guy. That is like literally part of the ending. I guess that's a bit of a spoiler.
I've seen the original anime. I guess
Yeah.
for people, I know it's different. I know it's very different.
It is different, but no, there's a similarity there, and I do think it, to a degree, it does earn it in my view, and maybe that's just my very particular vision of liking it and enjoying it. But it did hit for me because I felt that the core of it was still there. Because I think that's the thing that makes it often not hit, makes happy endings not hit, where it's like, oh, in order to get here, we had to ignore the fundamental problem, right? We had to act like the fundamental problem was a different problem. Which to me is like key to Arcane, right? The fundamental problem in Arcane is the injustice and inequality in Piltover and Zalm. But then, at the end, the fundamental problem is whatever weird magic shit Victor has going. You know?
Yeah.
And to me, that makes it just feel like, okay, so y'all wrote yourselves into a corner, and as soon as the point where I can feel the writers As soon as I can feel the presence of the
Good
writers,
deal.
yeah, it no longer hits.
Right.
And it's like, and I think a lot of things end up that way. And then there's a lot of things that just are like, and we're doing this because it's what people would want to see, you know, the fan service way of it. And that's another way that I can feel the presence of the writers that takes me out of it totally.
Ooh.
This guy's toughy.
Boy.
Big boy.
Not too tough for you, though. There we go.
He moves slow and he doesn't do too many attacks, so I appreciate that. I will say, I actually really like these icicles as a part of the difficulty, the fact that they spring back up and damage you. I think it's a fun little addition. Thanks, well done.
You know what other game has an ice area?
What? Claire? What other game could possibly have an ice area?
Diamond and Pearl.
It's very true. Oh, you know what? I've been, if anyone's curious about an update on my shiny hunting hell, which is what I'm in now, it ain't go. I'm currently shiny hunting so currently what I'm doing is, in order for me to have 2 files to shiny hunt a couple of things on into the Gen 7 games, I am playing through Ultra Me. Because I've played through Sun and Moon so many times before, I can do another thing on the side. So I've been shiny hunting Arceus in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. The Arceus hunt is a nightmare. It takes so long to do one encounter, because it's like multiple steps. You have to wait for the game to load in. It's like you get 2 encounters a minute.
Wow.
And you have to be, and it's 1 in 4,096, and there's no way to increase those odds.
Wow.
So that's been brutal. But one of the things, I guess, related to storytelling, I've been thinking about how Gen 7 is, I think, really has a lot going for it. It gets a lot of flack for being like the game with a million cutscenes, which is true, it does. It has a lot. I think in general, it is really trying to get at some interesting things and trying to do interesting storytelling. And Lucamine is one of my favorite villains that they've had. But I do think it's a little bit, you can kind of feel the presence of they want to have their cake and eat it too, when talking about Hawaii and like indigeneity versus tourism and, you know, like there's this real sense that they want to both have the story of like these, you know, these people on this island having these interlopers, in this case Aether Paradise, come in and kind of, you know, dictate that they know what's best for everyone and that they're gonna, you know, do the whole thing, while at the same time wanting to be like, and there's certain aspects of the culture that are modernizing and getting more homogenous and more like the other regions, and that's good. People like that. And it's kind of fascinating seeing the ways in which they want to have both of those things. Because I do think it makes the storytelling weaker. But it makes me think about larger like storytelling in Pokemon, a thing that no one except for me cares about. But the ways in which Pokemon inherently tends to want to have its cake and eat it too, in terms of storytelling, in a way that requires a lot of intentional suspension of disbelief.
I mean, even the premise of like,
oh yeah,
these are your best friends who you're having a pit fight,
and like it helps the way that they have, especially recently, started to really emphasize more the idea that fighting for them is a form of enrichment, because it separates it from real world like situations. But I think a lot about Gen 5 when they really went hard on trying to be like, you know, there's some people who think it's like dogfighting, which is not the best approach to take, I don't think, because then you open up the question of, hey, isn't it kind of dogfighting though?
Hashtag N was right.
N was right. This is the thing. The story has to go out of its way to find some reason why N is wrong rather than actually disproving his point, because they made N have a legitimate point that goes against the entire concept of the series. And I think they do that a lot with their conflicts and why a lot of their conflicts don't work for me. Where the fuck do I go? Where the fuck? How do I get down there? How do I get down there? How do I get there? How to go to there? Do I go here? Yeah, this is the thing. Oh, I haven't gone this way. I thought I had gone this way. Everything looks the same. It's a nice level. Anyway, any thoughts on that real weird spiel I just went on, Claire?
About Pokemon or like
About Pokemon, I guess. Yeah.
I don't really remember Gen 7. Like, I didn't even remember which Gen 7 was until you said Lusamine. I was like, oh, okay.
It figures that you'd only remember when I mentioned the girl boss, the baddie, the hot mama,
or any of the character names instead of the number.
No, I think you remembered because of the MILF. I think it was the MILF.
I mean, also, it's not a bad. If you had mentioned, actually, if you had mentioned her daughter, I don't know if I. No, what is her daughter's name? She's
Lily.
like my favorite. Lily, yeah. I feel like Lily is my favorite card in the Pocket card game.
Hell that. Love that for you.
Also, one of my favorite, I guess, companion.
She's
like
a fun
PC
companion character.
Companions?
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought, like, Lusamine, complicated character. Lily also, like, I mean, I haven't played it all that much, so maybe you disagree, and you're probably right, but I think also a complicated character.
Lily's, I think, an extremely simple character. Gladion's a little bit more of a complex character. And even then, I think it's pretty cut. I think the
brother, right?
Of that aspect is pretty cut and dry. I do think Lusamine is... I think... Sun and Moon, she's extremely evil. Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, they try and soften it a bit. And I think...
Yeah, I didn't like that.
I don't think it works super well. I like the ways in which she is complicated, but I wish that they kind of came to something with that other... that isn't just like... Oh, and...
Ooh.
Oh, and now she's... And actually, she was doing it for good. Because, like, there's a lot of things she says in Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon. Oh, shit. Okay. You gotta do it in a specific order, huh?
Maybe.
Because it just auto-kills you.
You might have to, like, play baseball with it.
I don't think that's what it's doing, Claire.
You don't think that's what it's doing?
It locks you in and then kills you instantly if you do this.
Oh. Interesting.
And also, those are not usually the type that you can play baseball with. Ones that come down. It's usually straight on ones. So I need to know...
Okay, so we're looking for, like,
yeah.
some sort of secret.
Yeah, there's so many different, like... everything is so close to being revealed, and yet... This is where I came from, I'm pretty sure. Yes, it is. Interesting. I feel like I've revealed a lot here. There is probably somewhere I have not gone.
Probably. I'm just looking at it.
I think I just did a skip unintentionally.
Oh, interesting.
I've already been here, so it's not actually a skip. But if I hadn't been there, that would have been a skip.
Speedrunning strat.
Accidental speedrunning out here. Yeah. I think the thing I was gonna say is I think that, like, with Sun and Moon, one of the reasons it doesn't work is because they still have her say the absolutely heinous shit to her children. And then at the end it's like, but actually she cared about them, and I'm like, no, she didn't. Did you hear what she said to them? Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Do I have to go up, around, something? Where do I gotta go?
Are you asking, or are you just talking out loud?
No, I'm talking out loud. I think I maybe have to go up here. Totally intentional deflection. I do think one of the things I've been thinking about is like, how do you do villain storytelling well? I'm thinking about this because Ash and I recently watched Sinners finally, which we hadn't watched for a long time. And I think it does an incredible job of making the villain not like secretly like, you know, a lot of movies when they make a villain sympathetic, is actually just making him like secretly just kind of, as the kids would say, based, aka like secretly cool as shit, and having an ideology that they just want you to disagree with. A lot of Marvel movies do this, right? This is a classic thing. Sinners does an incredible job at making a character who is both sympathetic, thinks he's right, has a legitimate reason for thinking so, but is also not good. I'm thinking about how hard it is to write villains without the villains just kind of being an insert for an ideology that you don't like, that you are portraying in a way that's kind of stupid. To be clear, I think you can portray ideological villains who suck, of ideologies that suck. I think that's very reasonable. But a lot of things, when they do that, they just end up like portraying like a leftist. That specific person has an issue with. I think a lot of Hollywood movies tend to do this. How do you write villains, Claire?
I think my internet froze.
Oh, well,
for a moment. So I didn't catch the last part of it, but I heard that they end up representing a leftist.
I said, I think Hollywood tends to do this quite a bit. Is all I said. I was saying, when it comes to writing villains, what do you tend to do? What do you like doing when it comes to representing a villain? How do you write it?
I don't know if I write villains a lot. Like, I feel like the one that I'm thinking of is the one in our game that we played, Ash, you and I. And I feel like that was less a villain in the villain sense and more a villain in the
mechanical sense.
That, and also like someone who does extremely questionable shit, but ultimately kind of never faces consequence for it, and I think that's just like part of the tabletop of it.
What game are you referring to right now, Claire?
Tender.
Oh, sure. Yeah, yeah. Oh, you meant villain in the literal class sense, because I have a class in that game called villain.
Yeah.
I do think it's important to note the villain class is not the same as an actual villain.
Yeah, I know. That's why I was like, I don't know. I would argue Lily faced consequences.
I think Lily faced very particular kind of consequences.
Yeah, unless we're thinking of, like, I don't know. I don't think...
In many ways, Rose's death is a consequence for Lily. Come on, Jesus.
Yeah, but I don't know if I would count that as like a consequence for Lily. I feel like that's a consequence for Rose.
Well, it also wasn't great for Lily.
It wasn't great, but like, it wasn't a consequence of
something she did.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, it wasn't a consequence of her actions. It's a thing that happened and sucked for her.
That's also probably inspired by the fact that I love when, god damn it. Oh, that sucks. I will say that is probably informed at least partially from the fact that I love a story where shitty people do shitty things. And yep, that happens. And like there isn't I do, for better or for worse, one of my favorite endings to a piece of media that I can think of is the ending of Burn After Reading, which is a Coen Brothers movie where no one faces any consequences, or let's say consequences are not doled out fairly, is what I would say.
Sure.
But this also comes back to the fact that I tend to write sad endings. I mean, I can't think of a tabletop character I've written that I've played where their ending was unequivocally happy.
There have been characters I've wanted to give happy endings to that the dice said differently.
Yep, that's very common also. But also, we set the circumstances for the dice to decide.
Yeah, how would I write a villain? This is the thing, it's like, I don't do a lot of writing.
How do you, like, play a villain then in tabletop terms? Like, how do you... what makes a villain for you? Making the same mistakes I made on the previous run, that's frustrating.
I think for me, if I'm like thinking about tabletop and whatnot, I think you can't have just one villain, because I think the thing about villains for me that I like playing with is villains are often fundamentally opposed to each other, and multiple people are wrong.
Oh yeah. You do love a classic multi-villain structure, admittedly.
Yeah.
Eventually,
like...
every game you play with Claire becomes Spider-Man 3.
Spider-Man 3, arguably the best Spider-Man that everyone agrees.
Yeah, everyone agrees it's the best Spider-Man. That wasn't meant to be a dig at you. That was just me making a joke. To be clear, I think your stories are better than Spider-Man 3.
I don't know, I did like Spider-Man 3 when I went to see it in theaters as a kid, but also I'm not a kid anymore.
As we know, things we like as children are always just as good later. For example, my first movie that I remember seeing in theaters, which I thought at the time was an absolute incredible film, was Revenge of the Sith. So,
right, yeah.
One of the greatest movies ever made, if you ask 5-year-old me, or however old I was. Yeah. I was like, I was probably 12 or so.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I feel like the thing for me is like having a single villain,
Yeah.
Having a single villain is like a really... How do I say this in a way that doesn't feel like I'm saying it's bad? It feels very storybook.
Wait,
yeah, no, I know exactly what you're saying.
A pirate? Oh dear. Usually I'm not one to be seen talking to pirates. Well, given the circumstances, I might ask you to lend me a hand. My name's Rolf, the first mate of my crew.
Smash or pass?
I ended up here along with other Imperial
Smash!
personnel.
All night, messy.
My crew got into a sort of disagreement. They ended up taking the life of our captain, Cornelius Stormwind, for betraying us. However, I believe he didn't truly deserve such a fate. I need your...
Oh,
Such an awful story. Our captain went exploring. And on top of tragically watching his crewmates perish, he was considered to be a traitor. After an expedition, Cornelius got here with empty hands and grief from losing his mates. It is just obvious the beasts around this place got them all. The crew spared no effort on blaming our captain and taking his head. Led by that despicable man, barnacle Bess. The only thing left for me to do is prove it was nothing but an accident. That is what has been keeping me sane around this dreadful island. Pirate, I'm getting...
Okay, so how do I do that? How do you want me to do that? Guess we'll find out. Anyway, sorry. But I think you have a point, and I want to hear your point. Also, how long do we have?
14 minutes.
All right, then
We're still good.
go ahead.
I think having one villain is very helpful for honing in when you have a point to make.
Yeah.
I think when I'm writing a story, I'm almost in the Matt Mercer way, like trying to make it feel real, but the way that I try to make it feel real is like there's never just one person you dislike in a situation. There's multiple times you walk into a room with people who disagree with each other and you're like, I don't like either of your points.
Yeah.
And it's like that just happens. And there are vastly different opinions, and I think finding the ways people overlap on things is super helpful for like building collaboration and like finding common ground. I also think it's a very easy way for people to misunderstand each other and like come at things with assumptions. And I think playing with that is really fun, where like if there's like two villains, right? Or this goes back to the if two villains like were working together and they come up against a problem and they have a fundamental disagreement, like they had agreed up to a certain point on some things, and like what does that look like? I also find that I end up writing villains that, again, for a tabletop, I feel like it depends.
Yeah.
I think my favorite thing I ever did was the game that I ran for you with Mex, where you gave me your arch nemesis, and I said, I'm gonna put this person in front of you the first time, the first mission, very first mission, we're gonna like face this person, because holding off on quote the big bad is like fun, but like also having the big bad escape is like frustrating. But they didn't escape, you won hands down. And I was like, do they get away? And you went no, and I went great. All right,
One of the
and
greatest...
then there were more people you disagreed with in different ways.
One of the greatest like moments where the dice and I agreed that the absolute most interesting thing to happen in the situation is for this character who was so certain this is her destiny is to be really good at fighting mechs despite having no experience doing it, and then she goes and does it, and it turns out she is in fact the best at it. And me and the dice agreeing on that was like, oh yeah, this is the story that we're telling. The interest is not, is she good at this? The interest is, and fuck, oh god, she's good at it.
And what are the consequences of her being good at it?
Yeah, 100%. That was great.
Someone who like rolls into combat being like, the point of me fighting, this is a really reductive way of viewing it. The point of me fighting is like, I'm gonna be good at combat. Now what I do with that is secondary to me being good at combat.
100%. There's a character that I think is very inspired. This is just me talking about shit that I've right now. There's a character that I think has a very similar thing going on in a book that I've been wanting to write for a while, just haven't sat down and do it. It's a character who is kind of trying to convince herself that she just cares about wanting to be super good at combat fighting and liking killing people or whatever, when in reality she actually does have an ideological belief in like justice and stuff, but she doesn't want to deal with that because that's hard and annoying. And like the appeal of just straight up like, I don't know, I always find it really interesting, the idea of a character who's like oh, I'm super drawn to doing violence and I really enjoy it. And then having to be like, but I'm not a villain, though. Like, a character who has those feelings and beliefs, but is not a bad person, having to come to terms with what does that look like, is, to me, super interesting.
Yeah. Now, this is interesting.
Yeah.
What?
Why
This
would
feels
it
like
let
a
me come
secret of
over
some
here?
sort. This has to be a secret. Can you go like...
Oh!
Yeah, there we go.
Just didn't get the right angle. I guess, right?
Yeah. I
Is
think
this-
it's forward.
Is this right?
Yeah, yeah.
Alright.
Cool.
But I'm also just such a person who loves flipping things on their head. I love having villains or antagonists who do things the right way, and then heroes who do things the wrong way for, like, wrong reasons, you know? And that's one of my favorite things in the world. Yeah. And so I tend to lean toward those things. Characters who have a lot of, I mean, this is the core point of Tender, right? Is like, society is the villain, and society is also what has things like civility, and pretense and social constructs. And ultimately having to play with that is tough. But you are all a bunch of monsters who can do incredible violence, kill many people all the time. I thought I had it.
I think one of the hardest, I guess, villains I've ever written is actually like me collaborating. I guess just to pitch Changing Playbooks season 1, and this is like an open thing. In the character creation, the thing we know about Cam's character, I'm definitely not blanking, Tiffany. Cam's character, Tiffany, is that we know that in some timeline, she ends up as a dictator. And that's the whole purpose of, like, the time traveler character coming back and being like, or not coming back, but having this vision of this future and being like, I need to change this. And so the hardest thing with Tiffany is Tiffany is an extremely reasonable person who, like, the thing about this was I kept being like, what if this with Cam, who plays Tiffany, and Cam kept going, Tiffany wouldn't do that, Tiffany wouldn't do that, Tiffany would do this other, would, like, if this happened, like, Tiffany would have a very reasonable reaction to this, and I'm like, all right.
But they have to get to a point, She has to get to a point.
And the purpose of this, and I like it and agree and, like, think we got to, like, it's not done. But the biggest thing we wanted to show with Tiffany is that someone who not only means well, but, like, genuinely tries, like, their hardest to do good and be fair and, like, understand and be there for people, when they are given authority and a position of power, it goes wrong. Because individualist power is not a thing it does not work out, even in beyond the neoliberal, like, power corrupts absolutely thing. Even
power is
then,
complicated inherently. And
power is complicated, and even if you try to do everything right, and do everything right, you will never not pay consequences. There will never not be consequences.
100%. I also think
that a single person has to shoulder because they're in charge.
100%. The thing that,
and I think that's my favorite.
Yeah.
Like, villain, I guess.
Yeah, I like that. One of the things that's so interesting that you're describing is the central premise that you're describing here is also both one of my favorite, but also one of my least favorite parts of the original run of Young Avengers. One of the core concepts of Young Avengers is that there's a character who's the time traveler, right, from the future, Iron Lad.
Right.
I guess spoilers for the original run of Young Justice, if anyone's still... Because listen, I think Young Justice is pretty good. Or sorry, Young Justice.
Good.
Sorry, Young Avengers is what Marvel, not DC.
I actually knew what you were talking about, but also Young Justice is fun up to a certain point. It does things, but Young Avengers. Yeah, you were talking about Young Avengers.
Yeah, Young Avengers, in this case, what I'm talking about is it's revealed basically near the end of the run that Iron Lad...
Oof. Alright, we should take a break after you say your thing.
Yeah. Is that Iron Lad is secretly is going to grow up to be, and he finds out he's going to grow up to be Kang the Conqueror, which is, you know, a total... This is like a Marvel villain who's all about, like, multiverse shit, right? And I think it's really interesting because it's like this guy that we've been getting to know, and he's like cool and nice, but then the story has to do the absolute most ham-fisted way of getting him from that point to the point where he could be a person who would become King the Conqueror, and it feels so lazy. And it's like, oh, all right, and then it's the equivalent of like, and then he snapped and went mad, you know? Because of these things his friends did, and it's like, ugh, that's so boring.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a break. Back soon.
Break, and we'll be back.